up, guys? We're live, episode 30. We got a full program. Start asking questions. We already have a couple of live questions. First one is I'm gonna go through them fairly quickly, and if we run out of time, we will discuss them in more detail on the app. Okay, Silver Fox BJJ Global app. It's available on Apple Store as well as Android Store or whatever, Google Store. So the first one is reverse Kesa Gatame. So the guy on the bottom gets mounted. Go ahead, mount. Yeah, and things go south pretty quickly. So we're gonna cover, like, first of all, there's two ways. So if the guy's head is close to me, I'm gonna cross face. And now I can heist over. Or at least put him back in a more, in a better car. So the other thing is, if the guy brings his head down, so when he brings his head down, his hips are not as heavy, and it's a lot easier for you to try to scoot out and try to take the back. So again, I'm basically playing between the head and the hips. Okay, so that's a quick answer. We're going to try to go back to that. Another question that we have is, Aaliyah, what was the question?
Yes. Off of Z guard, he's getting Darce.
Okay, so first of all, I'm assuming that's this. So anytime you get an underhook, right? Why don't we pivot around? And it doesn't matter whether whether top guy is still in the guard or not in the guard. Let's do it, when he passes your guard. This is even more dangerous. So look how, especially as I'm coming in, whether he's still in my half guard, he has a shot at a pretty good lockup, okay? Now look what I do with my elbow. This versus this. This shortens his lockup by an inch, 2, 3. That's a lot of times the difference between a poorly locked up Darce or well locked up Darce. Now, so basically, anytime I have the underhook, whether he's still in my guard or not, I usually just kind of flare out my elbow. So this is what makes it a little bit safer. Now, if you fail with this, anytime the guy starts to lock it up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to walk and try to get that arm under his torso. From here, usually there's nothing. You still have to deal with the bad position, but now you basically are a lot, there's no threat of a submission. So flare out the elbow. The movement of your own elbow is very important, whether I'm keeping an underhook on the guy, whether I'm top side control, whether I'm bottom. So if you go like this, you're presenting a very easy lockup for him. Everything is kind of narrow. There's not a lot of space. When I'm flare out my elbow, it's a lot harder for him to lock up. So even if he, it's hard for him to connect to the correct place. So if he's marginal, you should be able to escape this. If he's deep, then you might have a hard time. But anytime, so again, I make it difficult for him. So make it difficult for him to lock up. Go ahead, Karel, lock up. Yeah, it's much harder for him to lock up properly. And I start to, now I start to, and you can always extract your arm, okay? Now, if he locks it up, at that point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let him pass my guard, and I try to get my elbow under. Oh, what do we got here? Say hello to my little friend. Okay? So that's how I deal with a Darce threat. From Z-guard, from half guard, from top side control. We have another question. What was the other one? Oh, the guy gets sweaty, split guard, he pulls his arm out. That's a mistake on you. That's not him. It doesn't matter. I asked Keon if he put lotion on, but he sweats like a pig. So a lot of times. So if I have my up hand on his elbow, it's going to be a little bit harder, but it should be almost impossible. It's not a function of, the more the guy pulls, look, It's the angle that I create between my inner thigh, my armpit, and sort of where I'm keeping this leg. Now, if you don't have a good angle, no matter how much, so if I don't pressure, right now, there is no threat. So even though I use a lot of strength right now, I'm trying to keep his arm. Take it out. I use a lot less strength. Take it out. The more he takes it out, the more hurtful it is to him. So you need to create a good angle to make sure that the more he pulls, the more it hurts. Okay, so make sure that your body alignment between the inner thigh and the armpit is pressuring that arm, and you start to arch into it. They stop pulling because actually the more they pull, the more painful it is for them. One other thing I wanted to cover, and again, we will go back to the live questions, and again, this is one of my most important weapons, guys. So a lot of times when I hit a Ude Gatame from here, once I get a good bite, it's either one of three things. It's either a quick tap, the guy rolls over the far side arm, where I basically finish with a modified Americana. And some guys that tend to be very athletic, or they tend to just kind of leap over their head. And a lot of times we just wind up in another arm bar. So we're going to cover that in greater detail. So let's go back to the questions that came in live. Again, anything that we don't get to cover on YouTube, we go straight into the app live portion of it. Do we have any questions on the answers I've provided so far?
No, we have new questions, but
Oh,
it looks like everything's clarified with the previous questions. We had a question from, Raji saying good morning, Eli.
Hi, Raji.
MJ.
Is he still in the Philippines? How's your Achilles?
We had a question about the 5-finger guillotine.
Yeah.
When defending the guard pass, is it mostly just a threat to make them pull their head back? Or, for example, I use it to defend the leg drag and body lock pass. Are you making it a clean blood choke or cut forearm into throat?
No cut forearm to the throat. It's a clean choke. Again, people said, well, this will never work. Guys, I've been doing this for a long time. Everything that I show you, I've tested. Just because, there's a saying, and unfortunately most people on social media tend to ignore it, is if you have nothing nice to say, say nothing. It's usually when you look up the guy's profile, it's, okay, oh, you want a, local tournament in some state where, in some backcountry place, tournament circuit I never heard about, at 3-stripe white belt. You don't know anything about jiu-jitsu. You really don't. There's a reason for the belts. Yes, there are differences between, black belts and black belts and brown belts and brown belts, but there's a reason for this. It's generally speaking awarded for technical competence. So, and usually it's funny because it's such an absolute answer. But generally speaking, when a guy locks up a body lock pass, the guard gets past. It's very difficult to defend just pure framing and squirming, because you have no, your hip movement is pretty much null. So basically you depend on the framing, and usually the guy, changes the angle a little bit, the framing goes out the window. So with body lock pass, usually the guy on top is driving with his head forward. So as he's driving, go ahead. This is a threat. This is a real threat. Okay? Now, I believe Keon's going to tap. But if he doesn't, right, he passes my guard. I would not go that way. That makes it worse. Yes. Shit. This allows me to recover guard. Guess what? When somebody body locks me, a competent guy body locks me, my guard is passed. Usually the only thing that's available for them to kind of move up the control position is to use their head to flatten you out, and that's when you have a shot at the 5-finger guillotine. It is a clean blood choke. I need to reinforce it with my head, but you guys, If you have more questions on this, there is a 5-finger guillotine. I'm sure we've covered that many times on this. Obviously on the app, it's very easy to find. But on this, you're going to have to do a little bit of searching. But you can find it. It's a very good choke, and it works like a charm.
I wanted to see if you could maybe clarify where you are using your arm to choke.
It's almost like a... So the alternative, just lean forward. This is 5-finger guillotine. This is a reverse rear naked choke. Okay? The constriction in that arm is the same. So basically, we talked about this with Firas on TriStar Gym Channel last week. So basically, the tension is going to be here and here, just like on a rear naked choke. So your question might be, why would I choose 5-finger guillotine as opposed to reverse rear naked choke? This is what I'm here for. The reason for that is to, as the guy is driving in, as soon as I do this, he's going to be trying to put his head out of, lift his head. So as soon as I attack, right, he's going to try to lift his head. So this is easy and quick for me to get. For me to do this, I need to back off briefly. And that's where it creates tiny little space. If the guy is content to kind of keep his head low, I will go for the reverse rear naked choke option, okay? But if I'm feeling like the guy is like waiting and trying to kind of pick his time to bust his head out, this is way quicker, and you don't, at no point, go, take your head out. I can do this. But if I'm gonna, there's a brief, this might be just enough for him to get his head out. So for every 19, roughly, don't quote me on these numbers, guys, probably for every 19 5-finger guillotines I get maybe one reverse rear naked choke. Reverse rear naked choke is stronger than a 5-finger guillotine, but you'd be surprised how strong your head is if you keep it on top of one of the hands or top of his head. It's a very strong grip, guys. I encourage you, if you don't, whether you use your brain for thinking or not, use your head as a grip. It could be it's like very Ude Gatame, 5-finger guillotines. It becomes a very strong fifth limb.
Is there any specific part of your head you prefer to use?
Yeah, I prefer to go sideways, but a lot of times it's, especially when the guy's coming in hard and fast, you don't have to, like, this is my preferred, right? So right now, I have my head both on his skull as well as my hand. So this makes it very, very strong. But a lot of times, if I just caught it kind of late, this is all I can do. This is good enough, though. Yeah. We're out of time. All right, guys. So we're out of time. I will see you next week. And we'll see you on the app side if you're a subscriber. Guys, if you're not a subscriber, you get 3 free days to play around with it to see if you like it. Guys, it's getting really, really good reviews. Even some of my old school friends, black belts, guys that have been training for a long, long time. I just talked to one of them, and he's like, man, I got your app. It's amazing. So I don't believe anybody else does what we do.